Ann, are you all 6? I have 6:15. Okay. All right. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So we've got 6:15, so we'll call the meeting to order. Everybody should know the meeting is being recorded. Obviously, I am a remote attendee today. So just with the legal stuff I've got to do, and we have a board member attending remotely, we are offering a remote option in compliance with the governor's emergency orders to allow for the business of the district while still maintaining public access according to RSA 91A. My name is Sean Larry. I'm attending remotely in my home in Hinsdale. I am currently alone in the house. There should be one of the kids coming back at 7. He will not be attending the meeting, and I am attending remotely due to COVID-19. Just so you know, I didn't want to take the chance of coming in there and getting you guys sick. I'm just a little bit under the weather. I'm sure it's just a flu, but just to be safe and responsible, I am getting my COVID test tomorrow, just so you all know that. But like I said, I'm good. So anyway, that's all the legal stuff that we had to cover. And why don't we jump right in with the minutes? Oh, I should say I've asked Holly to help me moderate the discussions tonight. With the number of attendees we have, the board members are all really small on my screen. So I want to make sure that I don't miss any of you that want to give input or have questions or whatever during the discussions. So Holly is going to help me just to make sure you guys all have the proper input. And Holly and Ann Diorio, if you guys could also keep your cell phones out, that would be helpful because I can use that as an additional means to send you messages if we have any technical issues or if I think I'm missing something. I just want to make sure that I am conducting the meeting properly and everyone has the appropriate amount of input. So that would be awesome. And I've got, with my phone, I've got 3 screens in front of me. So hopefully I've got everything covered. All right, so we've got minutes here and we're looking for a motion to accept the public and non-public minutes for November 4th, November 12th, and November 20th. And
So moved.
do I do the whole slate? Okay.
That's complete as one item.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I had one correction.
Okay.
Let's see which one. I just wrote down my correction. I didn't write which one it was on. So where we reviewed it was the committees. Let's see. Oh, here it is. So this is part of November 4th meeting minutes. I just wanted to confirm the behavioral support team. Is the next meeting 1/13/21? That's what I have written down. But in the minutes, it's 12/19.
It's got to be the 113th.
Okay, I wrote down 1/13 and I checked my calendar and my notes, and that is what I had for both, but I wanted to make sure for the minutes and just so I know when we're meeting.
All right, just the one correction. Does anyone else have anything?
Nope, doesn't look like anybody does.
All right, thank you. All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve the amended minute, well, to approve the minutes for, the amended minutes for November 4th, the public minutes, and there's the non-public minutes, then the minutes as presented for November 12th and the 20th, both public and non-public. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and I am an aye, so I need to do my vote by roll call since I am attending remotely. Alrighty, so next up we have the budget update. So I'm assuming Tom's going to take care of that.
So I would,
have just unmuted.
all right.
Tom or Wayne, you could.
Well, I would just, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank administrators and Tom in particular for all of the work that's happened over the last week. So he'll go through kind of the overarching picture. We have our admin team here to answer any questions. You'll note, of course, that the bottom line is very different, less than 1%, about 0.5%. But I would like you to at least consider in this conversation all the COVID-related additions that we've assumed in this budget and made room for. When you look at the transportation issues, that's a COVID-related increase that was more dramatic than we expected. If you look at the issues related to retirement costs, that's primarily due to the number of people at the upper end of pay scales who retired in the state at the end of last year, and they're probably looking ahead to this year as an increased number as well. And then the level of participation, which then is compensated through the employee and employer share, that's gone up so much, and we're not getting the help from the state. So when you look at even healthcare, I would argue a lot of people have put off diagnostic, the tests that they would typically get, and some of the expenses that hospitals, and that's one of the reasons why they're having a hard time right now. So, I mean, there's a lot of COVID-related expenses, and most importantly, probably the student loss of learning that we're trying to compensate for. But we found ways, thanks to administrators talking with all of the different folks who are part of this whole plan, to make a big cut in this budget to make room for with para contract we anticipate will be on the warrant. And I know in the facility conversation tonight, you'll find that the facilities committee postponed their capital reserve plan for 21-22 and found ways to kind of move some of those items so that we don't have to ask taxpayers for the addition. There was about $70,000 in the budget for that. So I know Tom, and you can read his cover page, has a much better articulated view of the step-by-step process because he's been immersed into it for the past 7 days. So if he falls asleep during this meeting, you'll know what happened. All right. So anyway, Tom, I'm sorry I had to jump in, but it's your show here.
No, thanks, Wayne. And I second the recognition of administration. This is really a team effort, and I'm just the recipient of all the conversations that resulted in what you see here tonight. Just for folks listening in who might not have received it, I sent the email today at 1 p.m., I believe it was, transmitting the latest draft of the proposed budget for 21-22. And in the email highlighted that the bottom line is a 0.5% increase year to year. And then I highlighted a list of items that are affecting the budget costs in this proposed budget. And I won't read through them, but I'm happy to answer any questions about anything that I put into the email transmitting this, or any of those budget documents. The budget documents included a report from the system that is your typical line item expenditures, a printout from the detail that gives you further information about what's in, what's out, what's been cut, and then a separate spreadsheet that listed the cuts from that were proposed in all this work that administration has done over the last couple of weeks, from the elementary school, a tab for the middle high school, and a tab for district level accounts, and a summary of that. The summary of those cuts amounted to 226,663.67 from the previous draft that we were working with. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Tom?
I know I do. I don't know if you want to, like, for ease for you seeing, like, go in order, or just, how do you
Well,
want
well, you're there, so why don't I let you decide that?
to? Okay, yeah, and then just signal to me, guys, if you have questions. All right, so I didn't have a chance to look really at any of the documents, Tom, because I was at work today. But in reading your cover page, I just have a few questions from that. So number 5, budgeted positions were reduced by 3.4 FTE based on needs. What positions are we reducing? Because we haven't had any discussion, I don't believe, about cutting or reducing positions.
Wayne, I don't know how you want me to answer that, to be honest.
All right. So obviously this is a proposed draft, and we made a lot of recommendations that we haven't had time to really talk about in detail. We might want to do that at the January board meeting, but we looked at new positions that we felt, due to class size issues at the elementary, that we could reduce. We looked at a retiree at the middle high that we felt we could manage. Reduced the BA position to 60%. And I'm missing one. Tom, is there another that I didn't get?
Yes, the van driver.
Oh, van driver, sorry about that. We decided to go to one van, given that a lot of our students are managing transportation other ways, and Karen felt we could do that.
Okay, so when you say new positions at ATS, those are positions we were considering, not anything that's going right, people who are employed right now that we're getting rid of?
So currently we hired 3 new teachers this year. We have a 4th grade that is not as large as we expected. So we haven't decided, how that's going to work, but we would recommend to the board that we go from the 3 positions of 4th grade for 2021-22 to 2 positions of 4th grade.
So that 4th grade position, they're not that, those 4th graders are still that many 4th graders moving up to 5th grade, and 5th grade is already stretched.
The 5th grade would keep, I'm just saying this is the best we could do.
I'm just asking for clarification.
So the best we could do, these are 3rd graders going into 4th grade. So given the principal's recommendation, after a lot of, obviously we originally proposed something very different, but this is what we'd have to do to get down to an area I think you're comfortable with. So I don't know, Joe, if you want to add anything in regards to the fourth grade, why
Yeah,
grade
well,
4 instead of other grades?
So the way we're looking at it is 3 grades for our 3 teacher classrooms for our primary classrooms, K through 3. And then because there's 38 students in 3rd grade, we could have 2 classes of 19 in 4th grade. And then, well, it's still not over the state guidelines to have 24 kids in each of the 5th grades. And in a non-COVID world, we would be able to do that. Even in a COVID world, we'd have to, manage the space of the building the same way we managed it this year.
All right, so just for clarification, because obviously it's the first time we're hearing this, so we sold everybody, the budget committee and whatever, on the fact that that many kids in the 4th grade needed 3 teachers, but now when they move to 5th grade, that's not as much the case anymore. I mean, I know 5th grade, I kind of just feel for them because they've always had, over the past several years, they've had large classes and whatnot. And I'm just curious because I know that will probably I mean, the budget committee is going to be happy because we're not having another position, but why were 24, 2 classes of 24 too much for 4th grade, but it's okay for 5th grade?
Well, just going in terms of what we've been able to manage in the past, Holly, is that we've been able to manage the larger classes in the 5th grade. Maybe it's maturity. When I looked last year, I looked at 2 things. I looked at, if you may recall, the behaviors, and I also looked at how we were doing academically. And there was that huge, in terms of behaviors, there was a huge increase going from the 3 3rd grades to the 2 4th grades, which was a big factor in the decision. We don't see that all the time and going from 4th to 5th grade.
Okay, just trying to think it through, that if the question gets asked, because we did have a big rationale for it last year.
Can I ask about that too? So I know obviously this is a year we need to reduce the budget, but looking at, so we got a lot of testing data in this packet in particular, and 4th grade stood out as a grade that's struggling with all testing. It was, they're definitely below proficiency for the most part throughout the grade for both math and literacy. So do we really think that going into 5th grade, and just knowing that grade personally, there are definitely challenging behaviors throughout that grade also. So is it going to be realistic to put them in 2 classes?
So if it's okay, if we could ask Kat, and that she's the one who's put that data together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's remote.
So Kat, would you be able to respond to that?
So yes, I think one of the differences that needs to be considered this year is that in the past, the literacy coach or the literacy specialist that the building has had primarily focused, at least to my understanding, on delivering direct services to students. And right now, Allie is really focused in on being an instructional coach, conducting assessments with students, and then bringing that data to teachers and supporting teachers in making instructional decisions that help inform their instruction. Like, what can they do to help improve student learning outcomes? Next year, I'll be doing very much the same thing in math. So where Allie has been focusing in on ELA, my background, I've really focused on supporting teachers and helping them improve their instruction in math. So because of that, I think that there's a difference in that, yes, if we need to make a cut, a classroom teacher initially sounds very drastic, but teachers will have support that they haven't had in the past. And I think that will make a difference.
Kayla, did that answer your question?
It did. I'm still a little nervous because that is a big class, but I think if that's what you guys think, if you think it's doable, and okay.
How many are in the 5th grade right now?
5th grade right now, I think it's 46.
Okay, so roughly the same.
You know, there's some remote, so,
Oh, yeah.
but that's probably makes it feel like 56.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to sit and think about your eyes too with that, because I know there are also lots of behaviors coming over from 5th grade to 6th grade, you know, too.
Well, actually, we looked at our behavior data just yesterday because we're, you know, continuing our core value work in SEL, and the behaviors are down significantly. So there could be many factors that contribute to it, but I think the work that Mrs. Donahue has done in leading the staff in this endeavor has proven to be effective, and is definitely one factor that's helping the behaviors. I didn't bring that information with me, but I can bring it to the January meeting for you.
Thanks. And then my only other question, Tom, was Wayne or you, I don't remember which one, said that the BA position was reduced to 60%. We're talking the business administrator. Okay. Is that doable? Like realistically, honestly, don't look at the amount. Is it doable?
So based on my experience and based on the situation in this community, you know, I think we could get by with that with some additional support in the office, which I think we'll be able to put together. So I do think we can do that. And you know, it's certainly going to be different because there are some day-to-day things that we'll have to cover. But if we're looking at big cuts, and of course, Tom's retiring, so and he works through September after he finishes with the current budget. So, and he'd be able to help transition, and you know, we've got other people there too. So I think it's doable. I've got experience with 29 and you know, with business administrators there that I supervised. You know, it depends a lot on the individual that's in the job, because that makes all the difference in that sort of situation.
All right, I'm not going to put you on the spot, Tom, and ask you the question I want to ask you, so I just won't ask it. All right, those were my questions. So if anybody else has questions, Jim?
No.
No? Julia?
This is just on this first page we're asking.
No, on any of it, if you had a chance to look. I haven't had a chance to look at it, so I don't really have any other questions until I have a chance to look at it. So I hope we're not going to be expecting to make any decisions tonight.
Well, we
So-
do have a CIP,
Right.
so I don't know if this is a good time to.
I had a question on the, no, just on the 12-8 ad, those, the green and the red ink is confusing me a little bit on it.
All right, can you guys talk one at a time, please? Because I can't hear when you're all talking over each other. So we'll go one at a time. Julia.
I'm just requesting the $25,000 in whatever fund 53001 is added 12-8 for the elementary school.
That's the related services account. I can't remember the details. Maybe Julie can help us with that, Mrs. Fenrich.
Yes. Previously, we had a child at the elementary school that was substantial as far as related services went. We put $75,000 into related services into this budget before we looked at it again. When we looked at it again, we saw that $75,000, and we wanted to take $55,000 out of that. But then we needed the $25,000 because that is a BCBA, which is a behaviorist who comes into the school twice a week, works with our substantially behavioral kids, as well as kids on the autism spectrum. So the $25,000 pays that part. And then we put in we cut the 75 that was going, because he was going up to 6th grade, so he would have been at the middle high school. We put $75,000 into the middle high school, but then the child is now out of district. He's in a better program than we could have given him here.
So but we're still paying for his special education out of district expenses.
Yes, we are. Last year he was in district. This year he is out of district.
Julia, anything else?
I don't know. And the work that BCBA does is very valuable. She trains all the other staff underneath her as well. So, it's money well spent in that it gets all the staff the training on how to work better with these children.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it's invaluable. I just was curious about what it meant.
Well, what really happened was we crossed over from elementary to middle with the big number. And then we cut that big number because the child is out of district, but we had to leave something in the related services in the related services at the elementary school.
Great, thank you, Julie. I know.
Holly, did you have anything else?
No, I'm good.
Kayla?
No, I'm good.
So my question,
Sean,
Jim, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I had to come back in here. At some point, we have to look at the CIP, so we can do that. I don't know if that's appropriate at this point, or if we want to do some other discussion points first.
What do you guys want to do? Because if we do because Jim, you're talking about the capital improvement plan, right?
Right.
So if we do the capital improvement plan, will we still need a facilities report?
The facilities will have a couple other items, but I think this is bearing on the budget discussion.
All right, go ahead.
All right, so we just had a facility meeting before this meeting. What we've decided to do is to make a recommendation that for the 2021 through 2022 year with the CIP plan to not have any capital improvements next year. So that would those two items that are on the current list, which is elementary school gym floors and high school bleachers, those would move out a year. So there would be a zero amount capital improvement. My understanding of our discussions is that would require a board vote, though.
Does anyone have any questions for Jim on that?
I do. Wasn't PTSA trying to raise money for the bleachers? Is that going to mess them up?
At one point they were. I haven't had any update at all on that, though.
Okay. And do you know?
A large amount of their fundraising is the work they do during basketball season, and I don't think we're going to be selling things during basketball season.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure they didn't have a bunch of money and then we're like, yep, bye, done.
They don't have this much money.
Okay.
Not so much money related, but as far as the bleachers and the gym floor go, is that due to the COVID conditions this year, the wear and tear on those two items aren't as great as would have been in a normal year.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. All right, does anyone else have any questions for Jim?
Yep, I have one question. So is that those two items is everything like shifting, or are those two items getting added to the next year? You know what I mean?
I think that still has to be firmly decided, but my own personal opinion is that at the moment we'd be looking to shift everything by 1 year, not suddenly have a huge
yeah.
one year where it's astronomical. Everything would kind of shift out.
All right, hey,
Yeah.
so I have a message from Sam, and Erica is available if we want an update from PTSA. Can she just pop in real quick and let us know?
Yeah.
All right, Sam, if Erica's around, can she pop on for a second?
Hi.
Hey, Erica.
So I have about 3,000 put away from last year's game towards the bleachers, and my plan was to set up a GoFundMe kind of on Facebook to try and reach alumni and everything from far and away to help raise money as well for the bleachers. Obviously, we got shut down because of COVID for the fundraiser we were planning on doing last basketball season, which should have brought in another few $1,000s, but and I can't imagine we'll be able to do it again this year as well, unfortunately.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate you being around to let us know.
No problem.
Julia had a point to add as part of the facility.
Okay.
Just as this part of the CIP discussion, we were talking about pushing everything out, which so that we didn't have this $300,000 a year. Sean Lee was part at the meeting, and we had a lot of discussion with him about, you know, because that was my concern as well. Like, can the roof be pushed a year? Okay, so he's really inspected all these items, and he feels very confident that we are in a position to put that we're fine to push everything out a year and still be, you know, have a good feeling about the safety and the integrity of the facility.
Okay.
Kayla has a question.
So does the budget we have right now reflect
No.
those? Okay, so, and what was the total amount for those two items?
I think up until tonight it was 70,000. There was some thought that the bleachers might be more than the 50,000 portion of that. So, basically, in terms of budget considerations, we would not be adding anything, but nothing is coming out of it either. It hadn't been factored in.
Okay,
You
so
know what I'm
that
saying?
it won't change the budget at
No,
all?
those numbers aren't affected by this, but the good news is that we're not trying to add.
Darn.
Typically, Caleb, the capital improvement stuff will come out of the unassigned funds balance at the end of the year. So
Okay.
there would, you know, potentially be something saying, you know, to take out X amount of money out of the end of year funds, you know, for whatever project it is.
Okay.
Not always, but usually I believe that's the case. All right, so you said we needed a board vote to amend the CIP?
I believe that's the case, yes.
Okay, well, then I will entertain a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to amend the CIP.
I'll second.
All right, motion and a second, further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, I am also in favor. Jim, did you have anything else, or was that?
No, not CIP related.
All right, cool.
That's it.
So my one question is on the van driver, going to one van driver. I don't want to put Karen on the spot, but you know, Karen, I wanted to check in with you and, you know, see what your thoughts were on that, you know, because, you know, you're the one that uses the vans a lot for ELOs and such. You think, you know, the one van is manageable?
So thank you, Sean, for asking. Is it the ideal situation? Not at all. But I do believe that we have the capacity to allow, many of our students have been driving themselves in the last few years. Matter of fact, last year, when we had many more ELOs, obviously, most of our students drove themselves. So the van was used, one van was completely set aside for just WRCC students. And given that we have lowered those numbers drastically for next year, we've cut the numbers of students, and we feel like we can, because we feel strongly that ELOs can fill that void for a lot of our students, that most of our students are driving themselves. And in a year where we have to make some significant cuts, this was one that we felt like we could manage. We do also access the driver's ed car during the day. It's not an ideal use of much of our time, but it may be something that we might be able to parcel out to some of us within the school to pick up the pieces of driving if necessary. So is it ideal? No. Is it something that I think we can manage for a year or two? I do think that. I also think the vans can be used for so many other things too. So it was something that came to the table, and I believe that we can manage it if we're very cautious and careful about how the routes that we choose to drop kids off. And that's always a bit of a challenge, but Kathy Johnson is genius at it. So hopefully we can make that work. So yes, I think we can do it.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate your input. All right, so the one caution I'll throw out to the board on the van, going on one van, if you recall, when we ended up getting the second van, we had 2 driver's ed cars and one driver's ed instructor. And one of the things from the town and the budget committee was, why do you have, 2 vehicles with 1 driver? I'm not advocating for or against, the proposal to go down to 1 van driver. I just want you to all be aware that if we're going with 2 vehicles and 1 driver again, that's going to be a question. So it's just an FYI, it's just to be aware, because I can see that coming up.
Sean, this is Karen again, and
Hey,
can I just add also that I would agree with that. I do have that bit of a concern that having a van sitting there and not being used, I know is not ideal. So I do think that could be something that we would need to look at. And also, I think Tom O'Connor has talked before about the fact that the vans are not getting younger, they're getting older. So we need to be thinking about that too as we move along this process, that these vans are now 4 and 5 years old, I believe.
Agreed. All right, did anybody else have anything for Tom on budget updates? No, nothing? Okay. Are we ready to move on? Because we obviously need more time to look at it, so we're not voting on it tonight unless you guys really want to.
No.
I mean, the impression that I got was you guys wanted more time, so.
Yeah.
All right, so if we're ready to move on, then we are at the COVID-19 update. Wayne, did you want to kick that off?
Yes, I would like to speak to that. So we have had some issues. I mean, it's not been easy to manage, but now that we see so much community spread, I know Cheshire County is up 25% in active cases from this time last week. They anticipate the continued growth, and it's caused us a number of issues. The big one is the quarantine of staff. Whether it's to a funeral or to a child who happens to have to quarantine. Most of the schools in the area now are all remote. The only one that isn't that I'm aware of that's close is Monadnock, and they go 2 days a week in school and 3 days a week remote. So it's been very difficult for our staff, and as a consequence, very difficult for our principals to staff our buildings. Though our staff has been amazing in doing everything, which not only includes teaching at a time of COVID spread, but teaching in class, teaching remotely. And now with the fear in the community, we have more kids going remote. Kids who are absent now want the remote option, and it's getting pretty complicated at present. And I can see why many schools in the area have moved to remote. In addition, we've run into issues in our neighboring, our career center. We're now down to 3 kids that are currently going, but yesterday they had a case, and so we've told our students that they're not allowed for 10 days based on what we think is the board sense of what would be appropriate in this instance. And I wanted to throw that out tonight in case I'm wrong and you want to reverse that decision. So at present, they're out, and it's the second time. First time was somebody in the building, but this sounds like it was somebody actually in the career center. We don't get a lot of get all the details that maybe we'd like in that situation. I totally understand the issues around protecting the confidentiality of families. We've had problems with our scanners, especially on cold, windy days, of which we've had several recently. So we've a number of workarounds at the high school, middle school. We've got kids in the lobbies now, and then we have them scanned. At the elementary school, we're bringing, our walkers are the biggest problem because they're never going to register a regular temperature until they warm up. It's on a cold day. And some of the scanners just don't register when it gets cold very, very well. So we're really kind of, it's very complicated right now. And I wanted to make sure that you're fully aware. We've had about 150 staff and students in the 2 buildings that we've sent home. But when we send them home, then it's the 10 days. And we did have a 10 days or test, which, used to be within 5 days you get a test. Now that's not a guarantee. So it's becoming extremely complicated. I did meet with Joe and Ann today, and I kind of pushed them a little in regards to what they thought their chances were of getting to the end of the year. And you may have noted in Joe's report that he has some workarounds and possibilities, but and nobody wants to throw a dice in this sort of situation, but I think it was pretty well agreed on at about a 50-50 chance. So we think we could probably make it to the 22nd, which is the Tuesday last day of the December school. So about 50-50 chance that we'll get there. And so we think we'll have the staff to get there. And that's the big issue. But we do not think we'd have the staff to enter into our Monday after the holidays, both New Year's Eve holidays, several holidays, including Christmas in that section. And we think it would probably be unrealistic to think we're going to jump into school on January 4th. So we would contend that the board consider a January 4th 2-week remote and bring kids back the Tuesday, which would be the day after Martin Luther King. So that way, take care of the spread that we anticipate over the December break. But obviously a board call. So, but I wanted you to know that we're having some problems.
Wayne, how many staff members do you have out either quarantining or have opted to go remote instruction?
So it has varied. I mean, we had 8 on Monday, but I think Joe's down to not that many out. And Ann, I'd have to ask you too.
I think starting tomorrow, everybody who is not teaching remote will be back. They've been tested. We had some people who were very concerned. I had 4 people out at one point who needed to be tested. And I do have 2 teachers working fully remote.
Okay, and how many students did we have that ended up going remote after Thanksgiving break?
Oh, gosh.
Or I should say,
do you mean students that chose to go fully remote?
Yeah, students that were in person before Thanksgiving that went remote after Thanksgiving.
So I was a little surprised at the amount of numbers. I believe at the high school, we had 13 more kids go out. And at the elementary school, Joe, maybe you can help me on this, but I think it was around 7. Am I correct?
I was thinking more like 4, but I could be missing some people.
Okay, I have to go back and look at the elementary numbers. But while we're talking about this, I think another thing that I would ask the board to consider in this or to think about is that we are also having a significant amount of students at the high school level, particularly that parents that are calling in on random days that are not fully remote, that are still in school students, but when a student comes down sick or has a headache or sometimes sleeps in and doesn't get up in time, we're getting calls saying, my child will be remote today. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of concern with teachers around that, where Our policy was if a student is remote, they're remote until the end of the quarter, and the parents need to make that decision. There's some gray area apparently around what it means to be a remote student. And many of our students that are going out because they don't feel good or whatever it might be are still logging on. We certainly don't want to deny that, but it is creating significant problems for our teachers in that they may not have sent out the invite, and maybe Anne can even speak to that a little bit, but that is something that I have found to be a problem, and teachers are very concerned about, is this child remote? Is this child not remote? And for many times it's because a parent is feeling like a child isn't feeling good, so they keep them home for 1 day or 2 days. Are they sick? Are they absent? So I think that that's a piece that we need to look at, and that maybe some verbiage needs to go out to our parents, to the community again, about what that students are either in or out completely, because this in-between stuff is creating some tension for our teachers, and a lot of confusion at the front desk about how to take attendance on that.
Okay. I know I have several things to say on this particular subject, but I want to open it up to the board. Does anybody have any comments? I think I see Kayla's hand.
Kayla has one, and then I have a question, and Joe looks like he wants input then too.
I just have a question. So I thought if you have any symptom that can be COVID related, you're out for 10 days. I just went through it with my kids. So if a parent, you can't like sleep in and I'm going to be remote, or if a child doesn't feel good, then you don't have to get a COVID test, but they have to be out 10 days. It's not, we're going to be out a day and tomorrow they're fine, because my child was fine all 10 days we were out.
It sounds like they're trying to circumvent this rather than send them,
Right.
You know what I mean? So that doesn't seem, that was my exact question.
Yeah, so I think we kind of do have a policy. We just have to sort of,
it.
well, and I think maybe reminding parents, if your student has a COVID symptom, they're out 10 days. This isn't a 1 day we're there, 1 day we're not.
So Kayla, I would agree that there needs to be something, a reminder perhaps, that goes out, but also in that reminder, what does that look like for a student that's out quarantining for 10 days? Are they still considered able to log in and still participate in school, which we would hope they could? But that the option to be out randomly here and there as a remote student is not an option on the table. I think that's the bigger concern for our teachers and how they're able to manage this right now, and for our people that are trying to take attendance on this. Are they absent? Are they quarantining? Are they present off-site? There's lots of questions around that. So revisiting how we are messaging this to our community I think is a helpful thing for us to do right now.
Okay. Right. Holly, did you say your question was covered with Kayla?
Yeah, that was my exact question. And then Joe had his hand up.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to weigh in on the specifics of the staffing. But as I wrote my report early last week, we had 12 staff members out, and that's why I put together that little plan that we can talk about later. But just today, we had 3 unmanned staff positions that resulted in, myself and Miss Wallace and others kind of just filling in where we could. So it is getting to the point, because like I said, it has a cumulative effect, and I'm just a little, like tomorrow we have another staff member who has the symptoms, and they're going to get a test done. But how long does it take to get a test result? I mean, we're counting on 5 to 7 days of having somebody, and there is no somebody.
Julia or Jim, did you have anything?
I have a question on the test results. Are you finding here that it's taking 5 to 7 days to get test results? Because I think that's still at the 24 to 48 hours at Brattleboro test result. Or, well, no, maybe not Brattleboro, and Keene.
I was going to say Brattleboro when I went, and that was like,
yeah, no, I just want, because in Keene it's 48 hours.
Yeah, I know somebody who just had one. And I don't want to say which building, but they just had one, and they're still waiting. So
yeah.
And the 24 to 48 hours, like the rapid test, isn't as reliable. So I
Well, the
don't know.
rapid is instant.
No, that's not the rapid. It's 24 to
Oh,
48
for
for the
the
standard.
for
for
the
the full
PCR.
test. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Good.
I know Cheshire Med is still running 24 to 48 hours.
So the staff member came ill today and has an appointment tomorrow, which is
Right.
Thursday. So then we're looking at 3 to 5 days. So we might know Monday, but more likely we'll know Wednesday. So
Right. I know, it was just a legitimate
it's at
question.
least a week.
Is the testing that, depending on where they go, my understanding is Cheshire Med's still.
That's good to know. We might want to include that in messaging so families know if you want quicker results and you have the option going to Cheshire.
Well, we talked about the last meeting that the Vermont, New Hampshire
Right.
reporting and
Yeah.
all that stuff, because obviously it's closer for a lot of people here to go to Brattleboro, or people work in Brattleboro, whatever. But, and I think even the chief of police alluded to it in one of his Facebook posts when his updates, is that when it's across state lines, the testing, sometimes the communication is a little bit, it takes a little bit longer, and my understanding is, and this is just hearsay, I'm not sure about that, but that the Vermont tests are taking a bit longer.
Yeah, and I just want to add, and piggyback on that, that I check every day when they come out, when the state puts out the numbers. And today, it's been a month, I think, exactly today, maybe a month and a day since our case where we went remote. According to the state of New Hampshire dashboard, Hinsdale still has not had a case, Hinsdale School District. We are not on the dashboard, we're at 0. And Keene has had several, and they just showed up today on the dashboard, as did Chesterfield. So, you know, it's really.
The reporting is very slow, but I do
reporting is
think
very
that
slow.
the Vermont, New Hampshire state border convolutes things a little bit with the timing.
Could I say something? About the testing, for example, I had a staff member leave the building sick Thursday. She couldn't get the appointment for the test until Monday afternoon, but she had the results by Tuesday. And I think the role of our school nurse is more and more important. When they touch base with her, she knows where they should go, where they will get the quickest results. So she's really key for this. And the same thing for the kids who are abusing the remote access. My teachers are frustrated because a student will come up and say, I'm going to be out hunting 2 days next week, so I'll be remote. That is not what we set this up for. It's an abuse of the system. So I think if we can craft a message that reminds families that when the nurse says you are present off-site, eligible for remote, that's what we need to hear. That there is part of what the nurse decides, that a kid needs to stay home because they are putting us at risk or they may be sick. And that's what we set it up for. We tried to be so flexible, and I think we have some kids who are outsmarting our flexibility and saying things like, I'm going hunting.
Yeah.
So Anne, this is Karen again. I think Anne is absolutely right on that. And I think the flexibility, at least in my experience with this, has been really important. However, I do think that any messages that go out now need to be much more specific. We're that far into the game now where kids are figuring it out, and we tried to be open with it all, but clearly they're clever, and they're figuring a lot of things. They're figuring out ways around it. So as much as we want to give students opportunities, I also think that we have to be very specific in our wording, so that those people that call me and say, no, I'm going to go Christmas shop. I'm going to take my child Christmas shopping tomorrow. So they're just going to log on from the phone in the car. They can't do that.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, that's what we're hearing.
Okay, so we hadn't anticipated that.
Yeah, no, that was surprised me too, but it happens.
Julia,
So
hold on 1 second. Julia, can you work with Wayne's permission, of course, can you work with Karen and Mrs. Freetag on an updated message for that?
Yes, absolutely.
Wayne, is that okay with you?
That's 100%. I would really appreciate it. We need help.
Okay. All right. Jim?
So just a point of clarification. So when a teacher goes out and is tested and is awaiting the results back, she's still teaching, right? Remotely? I mean, assuming she's not sick.
Yeah.
We have to talk to the unions. We make them work when they're sick.
No, I'm saying assuming that they're not sick. Are they
Why
out?
would they be getting a exposure?
Exposure, yeah.
Exposure, but not if they have symptoms. I don't want to
so-
muddy it with the union.
Yeah, no, I'm so, are they,
So today, for instance, the teacher attempted to teach remotely, but was really sick and had to stop. So Luckily in that particular case, there was a substitute. So the substitute was able to get plans emailed and continue the day. We still have to have another person in the room.
Yeah, I understand that. I was just wondering if any of the teachers were doing anything while they were already awaiting tests at all, or are they, when they're out, they're out.
As Joe said, we have to have another person in the room, and so far I've been able to cover classes with subs, and they just email their plans. They like to keep things current. They don't want to have to use an emergency file in their file box, but we need those emergency files too. I think it's a lot to ask of people, and I think my staff is getting run down and tired, and I think pretty soon we're going to be at the level where a germ comes in the building and it'll just knock you over at your ankles and you're done.
Julie has a question.
Julia?
Yeah, my question, I guess, is just off of what Jim was saying. Yeah, certainly I don't think we would expect anybody that's sick to work. I was thinking, and I think perhaps Jim was too, if there's somebody that either was exposed and is getting tested due to that, somebody that perhaps traveled for the holidays, so they had to quarantine, they should still be working.
Yeah, that's what I was.
And they are,
Right. Okay.
when they can,
If
but
they
you
get-
still
right,
need
as long as they're not
you still need a
physically-
substitute, and that's the bigger
Right,
issue.
right. Okay, thank you. And I just have a question just to clarify because of my when I jumped reaction there, because Jim, I thought, was asking Joe about the person that Joe had talked about that went out sick. And I do know, and I've been clear that from the beginning that I don't agree with this, that if a teacher is sick for whatever reason, test or not test, or they're sick, and they have remote students, they could be sick as a dog in the morning, wake up sick, whatever. They still need to kind of work. They need to log in. They need to send a message to their remote kids, make sure they tell them their work. So we are expecting teachers to work when they are sick, which I 100% disagree with. But I think somebody in the administration or somebody else should be able to message out to the kids. But that's just my feeling.
I agree with you, and when my teachers have been in that position, I will email their students.
Oh, really?
Yes, that's if they tell me, here's my stuff, they send it to me, I email the students. I've had to do that for several teachers.
Okay, maybe they all don't know that because I have not seen that happen, if you get my drift. Anyway.
Well, obviously we should make sure if someone's sick, they should
they're not
be able to be sick.
They
So
need to-
we need to be on top of that. But all right. So is there anything else? Because like I said, I had a few things, but is there any other comments from the board at this point?
If you don't mind, I do have one other question in general about the COVID update.
Sure.
Okay, so I have a question about traveling for the holiday, like when they families travel for Thanksgiving. I had a parent, and I touched base with Sean very briefly about this. It was like this afternoon, I believe, so I didn't have a chance to talk to Wayne. But so you travel for Thanksgiving. We know there are families that did that. And our messaging that we sent out right before said the board policy was you have to quarantine for 14 days from the date that you returned to New Hampshire. So that would mean if you traveled for Thanksgiving and say you were back in New Hampshire the day after Thanksgiving, and some people went to Florida, some went to southern states that were far away, so I doubt they were back the day after Thanksgiving, they should not be in the building until 12/10, which is tomorrow. And I have my understanding from a concerned parent that there have been students that they know for a fact traveled, and their students were in class on this past Monday. So, and I actually, had briefly talked to Wayne before Thanksgiving and said, I know of a couple of families because people have been having concerns, and I mean, and this was one of them. So according to this parent, I don't know how to verify that, but so they were back in school, 3-4 days before they should have been.
I do know our school nurse has gotten negative test results back from 2 kids who traveled, and we had 1 student return today, again, after a negative test. So they did test after they returned.
And I thought our policy was, if you travel, you assume you've been exposed. That's what the CDC has been saying. That's what Dr. Chan has been saying. So that you can't test out of that. Maybe we need to clarify that. I know it's down to 10 days now, the CDC recommendation.
It's 7 with the negative test.
7 with the negative
But the
test.
board policy that we communicated, we all agreed on was 14 days. So that's why I'm just bringing it up. So, I mean, if that's the case, they got to test, but that wasn't, I didn't think our understanding.
And we can change it, certainly.
I would have to investigate on what day they returned and check with the nurse, because I don't go into each family situation the way
Yeah.
she does.
Yeah, well, I guess at 14 days, if you came back the day after, would be tomorrow. And if it's the 10 days, it would have been Monday, would have been the 11th day. So I just wanted to throw that out there because it was a concern. There are parents that are concerned when they see things happening that, okay, this is, you're not following what you all told us. It doesn't appear that you're following, I should say, what you told us. And my other question about screeners, I know we had talked about, like when somebody's out, because they're exposed or whatever, and there's a date that the kids should come back, like what happened, the kid kind of slipped through. So, and we had a discussion, and it was the opinion of the nursing staff that it was a HIPAA violation, and I know several of us questioned that. Sean reached out to Matt Upton. Matt Upton sent us back guidance, which we shared with Wayne, that it's not a HIPAA violation. Just put their name on a list and say they have to be cleared by the office. So do the screeners now have a list of those?
Yes.
All right, awesome, that's great.
And Joe has
And that was probably the other first part about the 14 versus 10 days, Holly, is probably my fault. When the new guidance came out, the nurse and I talked about going with the new guidance. So, we were operating with 10 days, not thinking about the 14 days that the school board had said, but the 10 days that it had shifted to. So
Okay.
that's probably where that came from my end.
Building, but that's good to know. But when we can always change.
Well,
I mean,
I know at least one family had students in both schools, and one of the kids was back today because it was 10 days.
Okay.
I do think parents are thinking 10 days now because that's the guidance they hear.
Well, and we
Right,
have
so
to
hold on one second. I'm going to throw something out there right now. So, obviously, the board does not, supersede the CDC in any kind of national thing. However, if their guidance changes, to fewer days being out than what the board has already decided on, the district stays with what the board decided on until we either get together and meet again and do a new vote. So we don't just throw away the board's decision, please. So if the board is saying 14 days and CDC says 10, then let's have a conversation and the board can reevaluate. But we're not just going to throw away, the board's vote, please. Kayla?
I know we had discussed at one of our meetings having our policies say, to go with the CDC recommendations, so we didn't have to have a meeting every time they changed, kind of what they were doing. And I don't know if we think that would be appropriate to do, because
the board needs to, the board needs to at least be notified. The board needs some notice. The policy should not just change without any notice to the board at all.
But do we want to change our policy to say, to follow CDC guidelines?
Current CDC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then with notification to the board as changes are made.
I don't have a problem as long as the board is brought in there at some point in time. But for the board to not be brought in, I would have a problem with.
Yeah, we do reference, because I pulled up what you guys posted on Community Connections, and we do say, when creating policies, we reference the guidelines of Health and Human Services and the nurses. But I think that's a good point with Sean, that because if we had that, at least heads up about it, that I could have said to this person, oh, well, not knowing this particular situation, like when the family got back, but perhaps they're looking at 10 days because it's shifted last Thursday to 10 days and da-da-da-da. So yeah, that would just the communication piece, it would have then just eliminated this whole 4-minute discussion.
Yep.
Could I also ask, when parents ask you these questions, you can always refer them to Wayne or the principals, because we probably have the information right at my desk.
Like I said, this was later
Right.
this afternoon, and I just, I worked, so I just did not have time today. But there, as we were discussing non-public, there are some situations that people did come to me. I went to Sean, then I went to Wayne about COVID-related stuff. So we've been trying to follow it. It's just this came up, and I just wanted to get it answered, because rather than wait another month. And it's good that people hear it too, I think, that they hear the conversation. Yeah. Julie has a question.
Julia?
Actually, I have a recommendation. I don't know, maybe make a motion that I I recommend that we amend the current policy to state current 10-day recommendation per the CDC guidelines, and also include in the policy that that we will follow the CDC guidelines moving forward in case there is a change in between meetings like there was last time.
So we can do that if the board wants to. I'd kind of like to finish the discussion on, you know, going back to school and all that, you know, first, but we can certainly do that now if that's what the board would like to do.
Oh, no, it doesn't matter. It's just kind of where our
Yeah.
conversation had landed. So I was just
Okay.
referring while we were talking about it.
Yeah, I also would like to, I don't care when, but I agree.
Yeah, because it could go either way. If they add days.
Or they add it, right, as I'm
Right.
saying, we need to just put out the verbiage, the policy that
Right.
we're following CDC guidelines.
So, all right, so how do you guys, how do you want that to fall? Because, you know, I'm pretty insistent that the board, you know, be, you know, at the very least notified. You know, so Julie, can you tell me again how you want that worded?
Oh, well, I hadn't really thought of official wording, but I would say, yeah, I would just say, I'd have to look back at how it was worded before, but any student or staff member either exposed or experiencing symptoms, travel with would need to follow the CDC's current guidelines for quarantine, which currently stands at 10 days, but is subject to change per the CDC guidelines.
And I would even say with all COVID related, I don't know what the next word would be, but
Well, I don't know, because that gets iffy because the CDC and the Hampshire HHS is saying 3 feet for desks, and we're said 6 feet because we didn't like 3 feet. So I don't know if we.
This is per quarantine. It's just
No,
says
but-
quarantine.
but I'm
she
saying
was
like
saying
what the
anytime
CDC is saying basically,
about anything.
like all COVID related,
Yeah.
but they're saying, that was DHHS, wasn't it, that was saying 3 feet?
I think CDC picked it up too. I'm not entirely.
I didn't think they did.
CDC had guidance on distance.
Yeah.
I thought they kept
Yeah,
their distance.
That was in competition with the pediatricians though.
Yeah,
The
so that might be.
pediatricians
That is
were much
correct.
more relaxed than the CDC
Right.
was.
3 feet was
I don't know
fine.
where it is right now, but at least initially.
So that
beginning
might,
of the year.
making it anything COVID related from the CDC might be too broad. Do you know what I mean? Because like the distance is just one example of competing things.
Yeah.
Why
I
don't you consider just narrowing it down to the quarantine period?
Yeah, I feel like that. At least it gives that, and then it also gives the administration and the nurses, I mean, obviously inform us, but it gives them, I think, the flexibility to follow the guidelines that are CDC regulated and that they feel comfortable with. And I think we should just be informed, but I think we should allow them to follow those guidelines.
I can agree to that. I can agree to that with notification to the board.
I'll second that if that was the motion.
Okay, so are you gonna have that worded properly for what we need for the public record and all that, and for the
Yeah,
for the
I'll get you
administration
some.
to be able to follow?
Please, right there. I'll get you some from Pollock. I'll work on it.
Can you shoot it to me just because I seconded? I'm sure I won't.
Oh, I'll get
Ann
it.
has it.
Here,
Oh,
yeah.
Ann has it.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
And Dioro says that she has it, and Elise is saying, just a reminder, the board approved use of NHDHHS and the NH School Nurse Association guidance only. And again, that's fine, but the board needs to know what's happening. Okay, so, and that's all I'm asking, and I'm insistent on it.
Instead of CDC, I think Elisa's suggesting DHHS. Is that what I'm hearing?
Hold on, I'll pull up the chat
I
again.
feel more comfortable personally with the CDC.
Elisa's message was just a reminder, the board approved the use of NHDHHS and the NH School Nurse Association guidance only. So
Right,
she's
so now
saying
we're
that
approving the
we
CDC.
did not go with CDC, and Teresa believes that it was CDC.
I don't remember.
I remember saying
Yeah,
CDC, I
I
don't
can
know
speak
what.
to that because I did the communication and I was at the nurses meeting and the following one. We did mention the New Hampshire Human Health and Human Services and the New Hampshire School Nurses Association that we were following their guidelines. I don't see a problem, however, with saying now that, you know, we're creating this updated policy to be following the CDC guidelines as it As it pertains to quarantine requirements from exposure or symptomatic, that will be following CDC guidelines moving forward.
Or travel.
Or travel, right. So we did do the New Hampshire Health and Human Services, but I don't think it's a problem for us to because we're updating that policy right now. And as it pertains specifically to quarantine, we're saying that we would follow the CDC guidelines.
Okay.
It's,
I agree with that.
okay.
All right. So there's still the motion and the second on the floor. So is there any further discussion?
I think we just had it.
I think you did too, but I'm required to ask. All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And I am also in favor. All right, so let's get back to the return to school. So I believe that it's my turn. So I think that when we're looking at, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, we've got the holiday trifecta going on there. And, the kind of, I guess, benefit to Thanksgiving being a little bit earlier is we could see what happened afterwards. And I think that we saw that maybe not everyone quarantined the way that they were supposed to. Maybe not everyone reported, where they were and the way that they were supposed to, and then, fed into not quarantining. And I think that has led into, students going remote, student absences, staff issues, all of that. With Christmas and New Year's, that's a week apart. And those are two holidays, then another two holidays that people get together a lot. And it's kind of back to back, there's not that month in between. So personally, I am definitely in favor of, having our regular Christmas break. And then as opposed to coming back the day after Christmas break to have a remote session that takes us to MLK Day. That is something that I am in favor of. And I'd like to know what the rest of the board thinks about that.
You know where my opinion is.
I am well
You guys
aware.
all know what my opinion is.
Kayla?
Oh, sorry, Scott.
I think with the staffing situation as it sits already, it's most likely going to get, worse and harder. So I will finally relent and say, fine, I guess I agree.
Right.
Not an official.
Julia and Jim, do you have any comments?
Okay, so what we're saying is we carry on with the current process until the Christmas break,
Yep.
2 weeks from now, whatever. And then we don't come back to school until the
19th.
I think
day
it's
after the MLK, right?
I think it's the 19th. Right?
That's that Tuesday.
19th or the 20th or whatever.
But I think we have the third quarter starting like shortly thereafter, like that same week, right?
I
Well,
don't
they
know.
would be remote anyways, right?
Yes, I'm talking about having a session of remote instruction, between the end of Christmas break and MLK Day.
What I'm saying is that
Yeah,
if we're
so
gonna
let's-
do that, did we want to like just carry it through to the end of the second quarter, which is I think just a couple days after that.
Wayne, do you know when the quarter ends, what that date is?
21st, the quarter ends. I'm not sure that the quarter ending, bringing the kids back on the 19th for tests would be a problem. But I'd refer to Joe and Ann.
I'd like to hear from the principals to see what you guys think about that, because extending it a couple extra days wouldn't be that big of a deal.
Well, all of the teachers in the middle high school are working on performance-based assessments for the end of the semester. This goes with PACE, and I think it will help with the level of student engagement. Our kids don't take testing very seriously. I hate to say it, but they don't. So my teachers already know that anything could happen at any minute, and they are ready to pivot because they're preparing their performance-based assessment for mid-year exams right now. And they have been since I told them in November, they better get ready. I don't think changing the date would matter that much. I think maybe coming back on the 19th would be fine, but if you want to wait and come back at the beginning, according to the CBA, the new marking quarter for us starts on a Friday, the 22nd.
Okay.
Also, one other thing is that the inauguration, I think, is on the 20th, and I think there might be people who might be out to that as well. But
Okay. Joe, what are your thoughts in the elementary?
So, I at first thought we don't have midterm exams. So, you know, the tough part will be getting the remote work back from students and getting it all graded and creating the second quarter report cards. But you know, if we can get the work back, then we'll be able to get it graded and have the report cards ready.
Okay. Then did you have any preference between the 19th, 20th, 21st, 22nd, other the days we throw out? It doesn't matter to you at all, pretty much?
I think it makes a little more sense to return on the 19th if it's safe, and you know, people are healthy and
Okay.
staff is going to be there. I don't think it gives us any advantage to wait until the 21st or the 22nd, starting on a Friday seems really odd.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Julia, I think I skipped over you. Do you have any input?
I would just agree with Joe because I heard it sounds to me at the elementary school level, it actually would be better if the kids came back a few days before the end of the quarter so that the staff could get the work handed in, could do some grading, some prep, and also at the middle high school level, perhaps having some direct contact with the students right at the end of the quarter would be beneficial. So I would suggest that if we were to approve it, that the 19th was probably the better day.
All right. I'm just gonna jump in and go ahead and make a motion myself. That motion will be to get to Christmas break and return Christmas break the regular day with a remote session through MLK Day, and then return to in-person instruction. And that is my motion.
I'll second it.
All right. There's a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And I am also in favor, so motion carries. So we're going to need messaging for that for the public as well. So was there something I didn't hear?
No, I just joked with her that eventually we all said aye because we ever went aye. That's all. I was just joking.
Oh, okay. All right. So part of the COVID update was the SNAP update. Who wants to jump into that?
So the SNAP issue seems primarily because of email irregularities that we had in our system, which complicated our ability to communicate and get the information back. And I think they've settled, and I'll ask Joe because I think Elise probably is closest to it. I know Debbie has worked with Power School, and I think Elise has kind of taken the lead position on this. So I think it probably be best to hear from our elementary school nurse who is passionate about this in regards to its workability. And I do think on Monday of this next week, it will work much better than it did last Monday. But I'd like, if it's okay with the board, we could ask Elise to comment about where we are with SNAP.
Okay, sure.
Hi there. So Joe has the statistical data on who's been using SNAP and who hasn't. In the beginning, we had a lot of issues with really fixable issues. Just maybe that we had the incorrect email, or email was maybe like off by a letter or a number. So it seemed like there were a lot of like big concerns and issues, but they were really easily resolved. It seems like most of the parents are able to get on and have been on, but that also doesn't mean that they are logging on and logging in. So majority of students have logged in, or parents have logged in once and been able to use it appropriately, but I think that it's not being used on it as consistently as maybe it could be. I think it's something that we put a lot of work into, and I think that when parents get the hang of it, it'll be easy to use. But I think at this point, it's not where we want it to be. And I think Joe had some information on it, so I'm going to hand the floor over to him.
Okay.
So by the end of the week, we had ended up getting up to approximately 66% of parents responding. So that was much improved. And as Elise said, we ironed out the email issues. Now it's kind of, like anytime you start something new, it's getting into that rhythm, getting into that routine of reporting it either Sunday night or Monday morning, because we still had 16, I think, if I remember right today when Elise and I looked at it this afternoon, 16 parents on Wednesday saying no, that they hadn't traveled, they didn't have COVID, and we'd like to get the majority of the parents to the point where they're answering that question for Monday morning based on, what may have happened over the weekend. But I do see it improving each time, and it's, we sent out, I believe, I don't know for sure if Erica did, but I believe that Mrs. Killeley sent out a reminder, and I know that Mrs. Bean sent out a reminder, and we'll do the same thing again Friday to say, please make sure you fill out it, and we'll see how it turns out. Unfortunately, I'm still figuring out exactly how to do the queries on the database. So it's all a manual operation, and I just haven't had time to get the statistics for this week, but it is a little bit, I believe it's a little bit better just based on the reports that we're able to look at day by day. So it's just a matter of getting more familiar with the software to be able to have some easy way to dig it out. But it took a couple hours to dig out last week's.
Mrs. Freitag, how's it working in your building?
I did look at it today, and Jan was going to contact Elise. I think Elise she's the keeper of the data as far as I know. So Jan contacts Elise to get that. Elise, do you have the high school and middle school data?
I don't have it in front of me, but I don't know. Joe and I went over it. For the most part, parents are logging on, and they were able to. Sorry, I wasn't really prepared for this. I can log in now and kind of give you numbers of how many people logged, how many people answered the questions for Monday. I can do by the district or break it up by elementary and high school. So I'll try to log on now and see what I can get for you.
Thank you, Elise.
Does the board have any questions, comments, concerns?
Nope, doesn't look like it.
All right, so my only question, and maybe this was just me, so I'm trying to remember every time we've talked about SNAP, it's been in regards to the questionnaire, and I was kind of expecting, because I have the email too, because for my kid. And I was expecting this a simple questionnaire. I wasn't really expecting this whole service that my kid's information was all of a sudden now imported into. So did I miss something? Because I thought the whole thing was just basically just the questionnaire, and there's all kinds of stuff that this service can do. So I was confused.
Is it okay if I speak to that?
Please.
So we, at least from the elementary standpoint, the Power School Health Portal has never been very robust. And for a number of years, we've been interested in purchasing SNAP and had every intention of purchasing SNAP as soon as we could budget for it. And when COVID hit, it had the software embedded in it for an extra like 50 cents a student, so $300 for our district approximately, versus like what other districts are using, cost thousands. We got a quote for one that was thousands of dollars. So SNAP had always been intended to be purchased and has a really robust health portal that ties in with PowerSchool and that it talks to it through its API system. And then the COVID piece was added on for a very small cost to be able to do these screeners. And we didn't realize we were going to be bumping into the details of the data entry problems that we've experienced. But I think it's also helped because now we have all those good emails versus missing emails.
I mean, it's only $300, so it's not a big deal, but was it, were we able to put that with the COVID funds?
I believe that was included in the COVID funds.
Yeah, cool.
Kayla has a question.
I'm sorry, Kayla?
So the SNAP thing kind of caught me off guard too a little, just because I was expecting like a Survey Monkey, click on these things, and it ended up being like medical information and just linking PowerSchool and SNAP. It's just medical, educational, like it's a little weird to me and definitely not what we originally talked about doing. And I personally wonder about permissions and sharing information. And so it was just a lot more complex than I expected it to be.
Well, like I said, it was a purchase that I had pushed for a long time and never had gotten, and that the add-on, if COVID had never happened, hopefully someday we would have had SNAP and we'd have a robust system. But by having the COVID funds available, we were able to get the survey and all that great software to be able to talk to PowerSchool. So it has a huge advantage in the terms of what the nurse has to do in terms of documentation on a daily basis.
And Debbie would like to speak to this as well. So Debbie, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thanks, Sean. I want to go back in time, way back, probably in the mid-2000s. Cheryl Baczynski was the nurse at the elementary school, and we had a health program for her to be a health management program so that she could keep track of office visits, immunizations, all kinds of health related things, accidents, whatever. And the biggest concern she had is she had to do all the data entry herself. This was back when we had WinSchool. It wasn't even the PowerSchool days, but there was no way for it to communicate. So it was very frustrating for Cheryl, and we moved to PowerSchool, and there still was no way to communicate. So we abandoned that and tried to jump onto the health portion, the health portal of PowerSchool. It ended up not being robust enough. Cheryl investigated this, was several years before Elise came, and the area school nurses were using SNAP. And when you're a school nurse, you're kind of a onesie. There's nobody else in your building to talk to about issues. You need to talk to other school nurses. And I think Elise can attest to this based on my conversations with her since she's been here. So it was always the intention to get SNAP in. When Elise came in, she had used SNAP in another district and as a substitute nurse. And I said, you need to get it in your budget. What happens is it's a one-way form of communication. I just want to make that clear so people don't think that there's all kinds of data floating out there. There are certain fields that are pulled out of PowerSchool and pulled into SNAP. And those fields are the ones that Cheryl Baczynski used to complain about. I have to put the student's name in. I have to put the student's date of birth, their address, their birthday, their parent's name. PowerSchool does that for Elise, and it brings it into SNAP. This COVID piece, I don't know what that looks like. I just know what the SNAP piece looks like. I don't know what the COVID piece looks like. I don't know if it's a window into that portal for you so you see it, but it is a health management system, much like we have a student management system or student information system in PowerSchool. It's something that many schools have, and we just happen to have SNAP because it's very prolific in our area. So I just wanted to say that it isn't like data is going back into PowerSchool. It's a one-way form of communicating data, and it's primarily that demographic and emergency contact kind of information. So I hope that clarifies it. I don't know if that
Actually,
allies anybody's fears or not, but
for me, that was extremely helpful, and I definitely appreciate that input because it was, different than what I expected. And and just to clarify, I'm not opposed to it in any way because we need to, get the information. I was just kind of like, well, wait a minute, this wasn't what we talked about. Well, I mean, it partly is. So I guess, just if we had had more information as a board, I think that some of us would have been less surprised. But I'm certainly not opposed to it. And actually, Debbie, that information does allay a few fears for me anyway as a parent.
Okay.
Anybody? Anything? Holly, I can't see. Did anybody have anything?
Nope. Doesn't
Okay.
look like it.
All right. And we kind of already did the update on back to school, right? Yeah. So I guess we're at the trip to Greece on that update. Who's going to address that?
Julia does have a question, sir. I'm
Okay.
sorry. We're moving on from COVID. I just want to clarify. I'm working on communications for what constitutes remote versus in class. Absent students, unless approved by the nurse, are not remote and will be counted as absent, can happen to be remote at will. Going to work with Karen and Ann on that. Update the quarantine policy per the CDC guidelines and extend the winter holiday vacation until January.
That sounds right. Is any?
Remote, so not really extended.
Right, but I know, right, but yeah, but I mean,
Just to clarify, we are not extending.
Right. It's vacation then remote session.
Right.
No.
But those
the
are the
kids
three
yelling at the open
communications we're
window.
actually working on. I just want to clarify, those are the 3 key points that I'm putting in the communication.
That sounds right. Did we miss anything? Okay, so that sounds right. All right, are we ready for a trip to Greece?
No.
Not right now.
All right, who would like to address that item?
I would for that.
I think Ann, and I believe she'll have help, but this is the same issue we dealt with about this time last year. It's complicated. I don't think it's any less complicated, but so it's okay if Ann could speak to that.
Sure.
All right, so in your packet, you have a letter from Mr. Huntley and Mrs. Cyan, and this is the trip that they asked you to approve last year, and I think you kind of deliberated on this trip because Greece is probably quite an extension for us. And again, we're at the same point where EF Tours will not give us a full refund.
Really, even during COVID, they're not giving you a full refund?
No, even if they cancel
Yeah.
the trip.
There's still 3, yeah.
Right. They would update it.
So I think they're looking for the board to say that you are canceling the trip, so now that kids can get at least their refund or voucher with the minus $500.
See, my question was gonna be, do we wanna let them cancel? Cause then they'll get more money back.
But what if they don't?
But what if they don't? And then they don't get any refund.
Yeah, what if they don't cancel it? So.
All right, thoughts from the board?
So I just have a question. So it sounds like, just from a few comments here, that we're kind of all on the same page that, like, we don't want them to go on the trip.
Oh, God,
In the
no.
spring, okay. I didn't think so, but yeah. No, I would think we would just cancel because I don't, with how EF Tours has been, or with even just not
Somebody
refunding
talk
you the
about
last time.
changing because of this
Yeah,
policy.
yeah.
Last spring, we canceled the trip.
Let's do one at a time because I'm having trouble hearing
Oh,
between
sorry.
multiple people talking at once.
So yes, I was just gonna say with how they have been, for lack of a better word, about the whole thing with the refunds, and now they still haven't updated their policy in response to all of that, that I just don't know if I trust us hoping they cancel. I think it'd be better if we just cancel, but that's Julia and whoever else has a comment.
Oh, I would agree. We need to cancel before this deadline of January 10th. And then I would also suggest that based after last year and this year, that we never use EF travel again for any of our special.
I agree.
Yeah. I'm kind of in that same mindset. I mean, they just haven't been standing by our kids.
Well, I mean, it's a global pandemic. The fact that they're not going to refund the money 100% is absolutely outrageous.
Yep.
I think we're going to run into problems again because now before I think we had minimal seniors. Now we have 4 seniors. And it does say that they have the spring break tours for college age and adult tours. But I mean, this company doesn't sound fantastic to work with. So I can't imagine that's going to be easy to deal with. So I'm wondering what we're going to want to do about that.
I do have a question, a comment about that.
Julie has a question?
Sure.
Well, more of a comment about that. One, for the seniors, when did they make this payment for the trip to Greece? Has it been since last March?
Does anybody know?
I don't see either advisor on the, Dan or Rebecca on the program here.
No.
Because 2 things I do recall, we said that what they signed when they made their payment clearly dictates what their refund policy is. I am a parent of a senior. I'm going to make the choice whether to make the payment for this Greece trip, knowing full well that we're in a global pandemic and that it might not happen. So it's kind of is interesting I'm interested in when that, have these payments been made since last March, then this possibility should have been occurred to all of these travelers when they made these payments. I also will speak to this comes right back to the worry about a precedent that I was pretty vocal about last year when we made the accommodations we did.
So I have a message in the chat box from KG. I'm not sure who KG is. EF pushed their new extra insurance that would give 100% refund, and this was on top of the insurance that we. Oh, hey, Crystal. It's Crystal Gaffney. Hey, Crystal. EF pushed their new extra insurance that would give 100% refund, and this was on top of the insurance that we paid before. We started paying last year, March, I think.
So they would have to have taken that insurance, or that's part of the whole thing, or would you have to have opted into that?
It sounds like they had to purchase, basically it was insurance. So if something happened, you would get a full refund. Well, that makes me feel better.
So that was their choice whether to get the insurance or not.
So now I don't,
Okay. Yeah.
now I feel like, okay, then we don't have to.
We don't have to. We can cancel without feeling bad.
Right.
Yeah. I feel the same.
Crystal would like to speak, and under the circumstances, I think that would help to clarify. So Crystal, please go right ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thanks.
Hi.
When we signed up for the EF trip, you are given the option of purchasing their extra insurance. Pre-COVID, then once COVID hit, now they are pushing an additional insurance policy on top of what we've already paid. And if you purchase that second extra insurance, that would give you the 100% refund, cancel for any reason. And for being a tour operator, EF is being pretty stingent that they are not going to waive that $500 penalty, even if they were to cancel the trip. They would still charge us a $500 penalty.
Does that clarify for everyone?
They're not being very customer friendly, unlike other tour operators.
No, they really haven't.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thanks, Crystal. Appreciate it.
It doesn't look like, oh wait, Kayla has a comment.
So I just wanted to clarify with Ann. So do Miss Diane and Mr. Huntley would like their thought is cancel now rather?
Yes,
okay.
that's what they
just
would
to
like.
make sure that's what
And-
they're wanting.
And in the future, you always have the right to say no to trips if this is the company.
Yeah, I think forward, we need to all remember to ask who the company is.
All right. Is there anything else from the board, or would someone like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to cancel that.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to cancel the trip. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And I am also in favor of canceling. Okay. All right. So the diversity policy, the final reading. who wants to, we already looked at it as the initial, who wants to lead the discussion on that?
I would urge you to adopt the statement. This is, it's been suggested that every district have something that's been updated relative to diversity. You know, we do have now we have a committee that's been established. They're going to use this to help guide their work. There are districts around the country doing a number of different things relative to the curriculum. I just sent something to Kat today that you'll get tomorrow that's happening in other places. So we're really looking hard at this. So this just helps give us a kind of a true north. Here's what the board believes. It's kind of a core value in regards to the way in which we approach our work.
Anybody have any questions for Wayne?
So it doesn't look like it.
So my only question, when we were talking about this last month, I had wanted the form that was used as part of the policy, you know, for the committee to be vetted by legal. Has that happened?
So that I can't speak to. I'd have to, I don't know, probably not. So that needs to be, sorry about that if that was my task.
And we also, didn't we make a change? I'd have to go back and look
I
at it.
know, I felt like we tabled the form.
Because of legal. Right.
Maybe it was legal. And there was also something about where they would be filed and how long they would be
That's
kept.
what it was. Who was gonna be the keeper of the forms? How long do
The whole
we have to
process.
keep them? Where were they gonna be filed? How were they gonna be filed?
Something at the spread office, like over there.
Yeah,
maybe, or
yeah.
something.
That, there were some questions regarding that we were waiting for answers.
Who was
for.
the head of this committee?
Julie, maybe?
Yes, Julie is the head. And Julie, I don't know if you want to speak to this. I didn't get permission. I guess, Sean, is it okay if Julie speaks to
Yeah,
this?
go ahead. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so when I was asked to be the head of this committee, then, you know, it actually made me a little nervous. I think it's a hot potato, and but it's a hot potato that we all have to deal with.
Mhm.
So when I thought, okay, so where to start? I started, I think, to back into it. I started with a mission statement and a form to report. And then from there, you're looking at the various areas of diversity that we're going to have to deal with. And we take those and we either categorize them or take them one at a time, and we build a curriculum as to how to not make it stand on its own, but to blend it into the rest of the curriculum over the, you know, the entire district. When I looked for a form, I looked for a form on colleges. That's where I went to first. Okay. I looked for mission statements in high schools, and I wordsmithed. I took what I felt was the best questions, statements that I found, and that's how the form came together. The questions of where it goes, who assigns the consequences, how long is it kept, what kind of assurances does everybody have that it is extremely private? Those questions have not been answered yet. So that there is still a lot of work to do on this.
Right. So how does the board feel about, you know, approving without those answers, or do you want to wait to get those answers? What do you guys want to do?
I would feel better tabling it.
Yeah, I don't feel like we have enough information to approve it.
Can we approve the statement and table the form?
Sure, of course you can.
Actually, a very good idea.
Yeah.
I would support that.
Just so the mission statement is good and there's sort of a driving factor, but the form, I think there's too many questions. So.
Yep, that's fine. You guys can do that. You would want to put, you'd want to basically spell that out in the motion.
Okay, so I would like to approve the diversity statement and table the harassment and discrimination complaint form.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 And I am also in favor of that motion, so motion passes.
Sean, do we want to, I know everybody's super busy and it's the holidays, so I'm not suggesting next month, but do we want to kind of put a timeline on it so it doesn't languish and we forget about it?
Wayne and or Julie, what timeline would be acceptable to you?
I would say probably either the March or the April meeting.
Okay. Is the board okay with that?
I'm okay with April.
Can we get an update at some point, just that if progress is being made at one of the meetings between now and then? Would that be appropriate?
I
Wayne's
think,
giving the thumbs up.
I'm sorry, what, Julie?
I think that we could give you an update. I would want to give you an update. I don't want to come with something that is absolutely cold and here I am and are you going to approve it? I want you guys involved in it too.
Do you want to do an update in February or March with the final in April?
March and the final one in April.
Okay, that
And
works.
I will actually reach out to probably to Wayne and, you know, I mean, the rules of the board and how, you know, we cross over is something that I don't want to do wrong.
Sure.
So we will be working on it. And I would really like this to be a group effort.
Okay.
And that we all agree and that we all feel good about it because it is a very, very serious topic.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, everyone on the board fine with that?
Yep.
Yep.
I agree.
All right, Ian Diorio, can we make sure that that gets added onto the March agenda as an update and the April agenda as a final?
Yes, I will make sure.
Thank you. Okay, so then we have a final reading of policy JLC, JLCA, JLCA-R, and JLCB. Does anyone want to make a motion to accept those as a final reading?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to accept that group of policies as a final reading. Any discussion? None? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? I am also in favor, so motion carries. All right, any other business to be conducted by the board? Does anybody have anything?
Doesn't look like it.
No, everyone's good? And I don't have anything for a change, so that's cool. All right, financial report. Tom, did you pretty much give us everything that we needed for?
I pretty much covered everything in the budget, Mr. Chairman, and my report is in the packet. It's the monthly statements for expense and revenue for the month of November with just some bullet points in the transmittal email about the setting of the tax rate and other items that have been accomplished in the past month.
Okay.
Happy to answer any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Tom? Anybody?
It doesn't look like it.
All right.
Everybody's kind of looking at this stuff right now. Doesn't look like it though.
All right. Then we will move on to the curriculum report. So, Kat, what do you have for us?
So I provided some of the data related to the Sas Assessments, the interims that were given in October, and you have those results. The biggest standout to me is the fact that a lot of our data is skewed to the left, where a lot of our students are scoring in the lowest two performance levels. So that really indicates an issue with core instruction. So what I'm interested in doing, if the board is interested, is putting together a comprehensive plan based on the work that I'm doing with Keys to Literacy right now. I'm getting a lot of good advice with regards to not just aligning literacy, but how do we actually align a district to the learning goals that we actually want if we're talking about 21st century learning and what that looks like. So I'm interested in creating a draft. Again, if the board is interested, I could have that for you in February, if that's convenient. If March would be a better month, I'm just looking for guidance on what would be helpful for you. I think my biggest concern is the fact that from what you've told me over the past couple of months, the district has tried to do some improvement or some turnaround work over the past few years, but that hasn't been successful. So I think that having a comprehensive plan in place that's public is really going to be important, so that way everybody can have a clear understanding of what the board wants.
I also think a clear plan laid out like that will help us to help inform our goal setting as well, so that we can maybe do some goals that would better support what needs to happen.
Okay.
What is the board opinions from the board?
I think it's good. I think a February update would be great.
Okay.
All right, Julia,
That's fine.
Holly, Kayla, you guys good with that?
Kayla has-
Yeah, I think we definitely need to do something. The data in here is concerning at best. So, yeah, I think we need to take all of this into consideration at a lot of levels.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I like the goal piece, that, you know, we can be more specific about this issue in our goals. I like the I don't know what word I want to use, but the guidance sort of around that. I like that.
Okay. And Kat, you're confident that February is okay? I mean, that's not going to push you, because we can do March. I don't want to put too much on your plate. What are you more comfortable with? Be honest now.
So I'm also updating those curriculum documents, especially in math. And that's going to be important because it's going to inform some of the work that we're going to be doing around the PACE initiative.
Mm-hmm.
So if the board is comfortable with March and I have that extra month, then I'm okay with that.
Okay with that.
Everybody okay with March?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. All right, cool. Kat, yeah, you're good to go for March.
Thank you. I just want to say again that Karen Thompson has been doing amazing work with our families and making sure that all of our families and our parents have the support that they need to be able to support our students. And Karen has also done a really great job reaching out to NHLI, so that way we can do the work that we need to do to further the PACE initiative, which I know is another one of the board's goals. And then I just want to say that finally that I'm just really excited about that climbing wall.
Yes, I was just going to mention that at the very end, that I thought that was a superb idea.
Thank you. I'm really glad that everybody's come together to make that happen, especially now.
And I'm glad that Sean can add a little bit to that. Sean Lee.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, everyone knows I'm not climbing, Jim. That's.
No, I didn't know. I didn't want people thinking you were installing it.
After it's installed, Sean.
Nobody would want that. Does anyone have any questions for Kat?
Nope.
No, everyone's good? All right, cool. Thank you, Kat.
Thank you.
Technology. Deb, you're up.
Happy holidays.
Yay.
We got to have something happy here.
Oh, yeah.
You have my report in front of you, and if you have any questions regarding it, I'd be happy to answer them. I did put a little chart at the bottom referring to information about free and reduced, just for your reading pleasure.
All right.
Did I hear? Yeah, I'm sorry, Deb. Did I hear something that that there is some changes in the free and reduced percentages within school districts, that those were going they had to be a lower percentage in order to qualify for that?
I'm sorry, need to be a lower percentage. I didn't hear the last couple of words.
I
Jim.
thought I heard something somewhere where the free and reduced percentages were becoming a little bit more stringent going forward.
I guess I'm not sure what you're referring to, Jim. I'm sorry.
Well, in the past, we had the idea that if we had hit a certain percentage, we would qualify
Mhm.
for the free.
For the whole school.
Yeah, and I thought I had heard something somewhere along the line over the past month or so that total percentage number was becoming a little bit more stringent.
So higher, you're saying, you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have not heard anything, Jim, about it. The only thing I've heard recently is that we will be using last year's figures as we're moving forward into this year because we're down in applications. And you can see that. That's why I wanted you to see this, that you can see, we're down almost 4% year over year.
Right.
5%. I'm sorry, 5%. 6%. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the numbers wrong here.
I know.
So we were almost 41% last year, and we're 35%. So that's 6%. We're down 6%, and yet it's about the same number of students. So my take on that is, people are just not applying.
See, I thought that's so confusing because it's only 2 students different. Like
Right.
it's 531 this year and it was 533 last year. So that's so confusing.
Yeah, right. So that's why I wanted to bring that forward to you, because it is virtually the same number of students, but our percentage has gone down because everybody's free now. Remember that.
Right.
So people are not, the applications are not coming through. Every month I send a list that I pull out of Power School of students, and Tom does his magic with wherever he does his magic to give to Erica to certify the students who are directly certified through state programs. And those students, keep coming onto our lists, but we're just not, I think Erica would have to speak more to this, but we're just not getting the applications that we had in previous years. And I know you did try to put an effort toward that.
Yep.
And I don't think that hurts to keep banging that drum, but.
Oh, can I make a comment, Sean?
Of course.
I know, and I saw you guys posted this, infographic thing that the New Hampshire Department of Ed put out, and I shared it, and some other people that's talking, Monadnock shared it first. Those are the first people that I saw that put it out, and then I went and found it. But that, saying that, even though everybody's lunches or meals are free right now, still fill this out because it helps in so many other ways. I don't know if that would be a good thing for, the district to put out on Instagram and Twitter if they haven't, just to get it out there a little bit more.
Was that the form? That's the form you sent me, Holly?
Yeah, and then one of you put it on.
Sean put it on the Facebook.
Yep.
Page. Yeah.
When we were in the communication about the free and reduced lunch, that was a question that Tom and Eric and I kind of discussed, and it was decided at that point not to really kind of spend too much time talking about the fact that this helps the whole district get more money. So we focused on the fact at the time that the free and reduced communication went out, the focus was or until funds run out, which is how it is still worded. So although it says free for the end of the year, there is a caveat until funds run out. So we kind of used that twist in our communication, saying, hey, get your paperwork in just in case free lunch for everybody doesn't last the whole school year. We need to have this paperwork on file.
Yeah, and the DOE just came out with, just like very recently came out with a graphic about it. So it might be a good time now to just remind people.
And
I think, okay, go ahead, Deb.
Well, I just wanted to say that I did put something out on social media on November 20th, and it was an infographic. It's more than a meal application, had kind of a sunshine look on it.
Oh, yep, that's it.
Filling out the school meal may help provide, blah, blah, blah. And I did put that out on November 20th. It only got 4 likes, folks. Sorry. It isn't a picture of one of our kids.
Right. Yeah, and Kayla and I put that out on Community Connections too. Kayla, I believe I see you flapping your wing there.
Oh, sorry, I didn't. I'm flapping.
Thank you for that lovely intro, Sean.
No problem, buddy.
So I just, if obviously if the free meals runs out, then it's an issue that parents didn't. But since the DOE decided we can use 2019's numbers, does it really, I don't want to say does it really matter, but is it really crucial that we get those applications?
Yeah, because those kids still won't get.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like,
But
if
those
it
kids
runs
who
out,
really need free lunch and they
Right.
don't fill out an application and the DOE runs out of money,
right?
they're not going to get lunch.
There are other things that are impacted from the
Right,
student
hold on.
perspective as well.
Right.
And part of that has to do with, for example, our 12th graders who are going to go off to college. If they qualify for free reduced hot lunch, there are certain things that can happen as far as free applications to colleges. Certain fees can be waived, but they have to be qualified to do that.
Right.
So, I mean, that's just one thing I thought of off the top of my head, that it certainly benefits the family in other ways, but certainly families do benefit from that. So,
And now if someone was asking me, you know, so I don't, do they still fill it out? Do we still want them to fill it out if they know for absolutely certainly they don't qualify? And I mean, I haven't filled one
Yes.
out. I don't qualify.
Yeah.
So yes, even if they know for a fact they don't qualify?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Then I will also fill mine out. 'Cause I haven't
Fill out as many as you can.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was my understanding too, is that the more you get,
Even the non-qualifying ones?
yeah.
I didn't know that. I just assumed if you don't qualify that maybe I shouldn't say that.
I think it's, I mean,
I've
that's going back
never-
a lot of years, but when our kids were in school, it used to say they wanted everybody in the district to fill it out. It was very clear on the paperwork that whether you thought you qualified for free and reduced lunch, that it was important to the district that everybody get this paper back.
Oh, I did not know that.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I didn't ask for recognition. I just jumped in. I apologize.
That's okay, Tom. I won't hold it against you.
The reason that I said yes, if I might explain, is I think it sets a better example that there's an expectation that we get in as many as possible applications, because some people aren't going to realize that they would qualify. So those income guidelines, the income eligibility guidelines, are set by the feds. They increase every year, and you know, your income might not be increasing as much as the thresholds are. And it certainly is. It's just better to get more than less. No, I'm not saying this to, you know, if you don't have to fill one out, Sean, if you absolutely know. But I think it's a good example that we set, that everybody is aware of the importance of having those free and reduced applications, so that we maximize the numbers, because the big dollars are going to come from state and federal funding that are going to be seriously impacted. The state adequacy money has a big free and reduced component. Title I funds, big free and reduced component.
And I think Erica wanted to give some input.
I just wanted to state that this also helps Marianne as well. She uses these numbers for her program. Also, it helps the parents through the district, well, K through 6, or middle school, with reduced costs for paying for after school program as well. And the applications do follow the students until October of the following year. So I don't know what the school year is going to look like next year, but if they fill it out this year, it's going to follow them all the way till October of next year.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you, Erica.
Yeah.
Okay, where were we? All right, free and reduced. All right, technology. All right. Does anyone else have any other questions for Deb?
No.
No? All All right, so if we're ready to move on, we're at principal reports, and Mrs. Freetag is up first.
Thank you. I have my report for you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions or if you want further clarification on anything.
Anybody have any questions for Ann?
Hold on, Kayla's thinking.
I messed up my packet.
That's the worst when you get out of order.
I know. Yeah, just looking at the data again.
Now, remember that we did our MAP testing before we did the interim SAS. So I will say that sometimes testing is like waterboarding. And there's always that test fatigue. In the spring, we don't like to do MAP and the New Hampshire SAS in the spring together. It's just too much for these kids. So last year, had we been in school, we would have just done the spring SAS testing and not done MAP testing. We like the fall MAP testing because it gives us the idea of longitudinal annual growth. And what's amazing about this is that our kids did not do as poorly as we anticipated. So I have to say, teachers are doing a great job, really, given the circumstances, and are turning on a dime last March. I think they pivoted quite well. So you've probably, if you've been on the board, you may have seen these charts. Joe and I have done some of these before like this, so you can follow the cohort through. And I'm pleased that we're making progress. And I let teachers know that. And I've given you an overview of what the plan is. And in talking with teachers, we really feel that the role of the PLC team and the leadership training that the teachers will get through the PACE, the first Tuesday of the month will be the day they get their training with the NHLI folks. So we think that's going to be very important for our kids. The data for our juniors and seniors is not very reliable. I will say when they took the MAP test, teachers wanted it this fall because we were concerned about what did they learn or not learn. But if you looked at the time they put into taking the test, many of those juniors and seniors spent maybe 20 minutes. They didn't take it seriously. So I don't think that data is all that valid. And I think that's a trend in many high schools that as kids get older, the assessment that they're engaging in has to be more authentic. And I think that's what we're striving towards. And I do believe that fits in with your goals of personalized learning.
Well, and they take the SATs too, so.
They will take those seriously if they're really thinking college, but I know a lot of my seniors this year, they're not thinking of college because so many of them are remote right now. They're at home learning on their computer, and the idea of going to college and staying home and using your computer doesn't sound like so much fun. So that for our kids who are really goal-oriented and want to go to college, that's great. They're going to really put their mind on the SATs. But it's a challenge to get the kids to do well on these standardized tests.
Anybody, anything for Ann?
Nope.
Nope. All right, Mr. Boggio, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You all have my report, and I would like to ask for some guidance, I guess, on the, I called it praised for staff. That's the hook to get your attention. But it's really about, addressing our staff absence situation, because I'm a little concerned about that. But I didn't want this to, to be misconstrued in any way either. The staff is working super hard. It's just because of the way we're set up, we kind of need that sort of pivot day in order to do a better job in being remote and having the opportunity to get things set up. So, I'd hate to walk into school someday and get a call at 7:30 that 3 more teachers are out, and then I'm like, I don't know what to do. So we would manage that day, and I would let Mr. Woolridge know that, we've got now however many people total out, and like to go to the pivot day for Tuesday and be fully remote on Wednesday. With maybe we can let parents know that the expectation is that the test might be a little quicker now and we'll be back in school the following Monday or whatever the situation may be. But I think this is a better approach because, you know, it is looming out there that we may have a day when we just don't have enough staff because we cannot group. Like last year, I had sometimes first grade, the two classes of first grade were together. I can't do that this year.
Any questions for Joe?
Not a question, but I thought that his plan was good. I thought it was a pretty well thought out plan of attack.
I agree. And I think letting families know about the pivot day is helpful because that was sort of a what's going on the day after we had to go remote. So I think that will be helpful. And Joe's report is kind of why I supported finally the going remote after Christmas break, just because if his numbers are, you know, they're really struggling over there and we're looking at trying to really be prepared just in case, then it was a very well written report and really kind of broke it all down for us. So thank you.
Okay. Julia, Holly?
No, I think it's great. Yeah, I like it.
All right. Joe, did you need any kind of approval from us, or it sounds like we're all okay with it? I mean, you don't need any official vote or anything, do you?
No, thank you. I mean, I just wanted to make sure that it sounded okay. I did prepare that addendum as a draft thing so that it could be part of the communication. I'm not sure where it fits in the grand scheme of communication,
Okay.
but I did include that. So I think you have that, Julia, too.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
And then-
it's well presented, and yeah, we can either send it out as part of our communications that'll be going out, or and were you thinking of just sending out to your elementary?
Well, I think it only applies really to elementary,
Right.
so.
So I don't know where we would.
Yeah, I would think in this case, we'd want Joe just to
Just
send
to
that.
Joe to do
Yeah.
the communication,
and
yeah,
not
I would
confuse
agree with that.
Maybe send home a written, if that's possible, to just send it home with each student. And then, you know, we have the emails now too, hopefully more accurate emails for a lot of families. So
Yeah, I think ideally, because it's I would do an electronic and then a hard copy.
Yeah, you can do a mailer. You can do a mailing out to
Or
the
Friday,
elementary
we
school
might do
parents.
Friday folders.
no Friday folders.
And then the only other thing I'd like to comment on is I didn't have, like I said, the kindergarten was a highlight. Well, a magic moment of the year was having all the kindergartners together last Friday morning. It went super well. And, you know, the kids were great. They managed their social distance or physical distancing well. And they were able to create some new friends. So it was really good. I think it went well.
I love that, the magic moment of the year.
I
That's
know.
awesome, Joe. That's
Yay,
great.
you gotta have
Gotta
those
have
in
those
too.
those bright spots. That's awesome.
All right. Anyone have anything else for Joe? No, we're all good. All right. So then thank you very much, Joe. And then we are on to the superintendent's report.
Mr. Chair, you have my report. I think I've covered most of the information in the report. Right now, there's a lot to do with budget and issues related to COVID, and that's pretty much what I spoke to in the report.
Does anyone have any questions for Wayne? No, Holly, I can't see. Does anyone have anything?
Nope, it doesn't look like it.
All right. So then if we're ready, we'll go down to the committee reports. So personnel, Holly, do you want to take that one?
You know, so we've been meeting and it's going well, and we have our next meeting was, you know, possibly, you know, we could wrap it up, that one, or maybe another one after that, but hopefully next time it's on Tuesday the 15th. So,
Holly, I do have planning board that night, so even if the post office doesn't force me to stay remote, I do have to do that planning board meeting.
okay. All right, we'll you know, touch base beforehand and
Yeah, absolutely. All right, health and wellness.
I don't have anything to report on health and wellness.
Town budget committee.
So we should probably figure out when we want to nail down the date, because they know that we're looking at the budget, our second pass of the budget tonight. So I think, we should try and nail down a date that we want to meet with them. Since they're going to be actually, so we didn't approve anything tonight because, we need some more time to look at it. The budget, the next time the budget committee is meeting with the selectmen, they're actually meeting on the 16th, so next Wednesday here. They're meeting at the SAU now. So I don't know if we are going to, what are our thoughts if we're going to have our next look at the budget and, approve or, amend or whatnot at our next January meeting, which is the 13th, which is kind of late. Wayne has his hand up. Wayne?
So I did talk to Tom, and we could use some time between now and the 13th to get everything lined out. And he believes that we could meet on the following week with the budget committee. So the 18th, 19th, or 20th of January, I guess it wouldn't be the 18th, it'd be the 19th or 20th after Martin Luther King Day, if they were okay. And by then we could get a board vote. You'd have time to get any of your questions answered. We'd have time to put our justification together. And Tom feels that it would be appropriate to still have time for the public hearing and we wouldn't be behind. So I know that's a little later than we usually.
So my concern, it's quite a bit later. We usually meet either as a board to finish up the budget. I know last year we were doing it the week of New Year's week. Yeah. But which I'm not opposed to that again if we have to, because we had to do it because there were some things that we weren't on agreement with about with the administration. So we ended up doing it the week of New Year's. We typically meet with the budget committee the first week in January, because say we don't look at this again until the 13th, then we meet with the budget committee on the 20th. What if we have a couple go-arounds with them? Because I feel we're cutting it kind of close. Kayla, what do you think?
Yeah, February. It's usually like the first.
That first Wednesday or something.
Yeah, Wednesday or
February,
Thursday in February. So that really wouldn't give us enough time before the hearing. If we couldn't come to agreement on something and had to meet again, we really wouldn't have the time to do it.
And it's going to make them angry too, which is why
It won't be
poke the bear when we're trying to work with them. Right.
Well, I think one of the budget committee meetings that I did sit in on at, one of the concerns going around there for both school and town was they wanted time. They wanted time to be able to sit with the budget and sit with themselves and look at it, in addition to obviously our meetings. So I don't know how much time that gives them to do that.
Yeah, and they're going to be, there's only a few very minor things to finish up with the town next week on the town budget. So that would mean they're done with the town budget almost a full month before they even get to look at ours. So I feel comfortable with that. Tom, Wayne, somebody?
So the January 6th, first Monday we come back, but you wouldn't have, the board would not have had a chance to, unless we meet with the board first and then prior to the time we meet with the budget committee.
I don't know.
The budget hearing should be around February 3rd.
So we can't, that's too late.
Yeah, we can't wait to meet with them till the 20th. That's not right.
No, that would be, I would not be.
How about the 14th? That'd give you the day after the board meeting.
I'll have to check with them. They usually meet like on Wednesdays, but I think they've met on Thursdays too. I'm not sure. I have to check with them.
Are there big changes coming? Would it be a problem for us to meet with them on the 6th? Then are we going to have something like thrown at us?
There are no big changes. They're just justification for all that you've seen, which we don't have written out yet and don't have we've got to work it through the system. We're probably surprising a few people. And so we're going to need some time to do it right. And this is a kind of a tough time prior to the holidays right now, where everybody is already fatigued. So just trying to be sensitive to the group.
Yeah, but we also have to be sensitive to if we make them angry, that you know what I mean?
We don't want to go into it
Yeah,
with everyone already at a
upset
10.
with us, So you
Mr.
said
Chairman, could I weigh in?
Absolutely, please, go ahead.
So I don't anticipate any major changes. People were submitting stuff to me up through this morning, and I was integrating all of that. And what I gave to you today was the culmination. I think for me, I'm prepared to support the school board with whatever your pleasure is. If you choose to meet once again sometime, I'm available. At the point where you're ready to vote and approve a budget for yourselves to transfer over to the budget committee, I'm prepared to go. If you would like to have the option to transfer a draft format to the budget committee prior to your officially taking a preliminary vote, because I know you guys, you vote the budget on the public hearing night, just as or just prior to. And the budget committee doesn't actually vote officially the budget until the public hearing night. But yeah, to provide them time to consider and jointly meet with you and discuss and get questions answered, I'm good to go when you're solidly behind your budget proposal.
I mean, I know for myself, because I didn't have time to look at what we got today. I mean, you guys came down to almost flat. I mean, I know they want to see flat or under. So, but I think it's just a matter of us going through this, because we can't say yes or no till we look at this, but it probably is pretty close, is my guess. Would it be, and it's kind of for everybody, would it make it be okay? Would we be able to moving our school board meeting up to the 6th and then meeting with the budget committee on the 13th, like kind of flipping? I don't know everybody else, because you're just coming back. If that would be possible, I don't know. So that might be too much to ask in general.
I'm okay with it.
So
But-
Joe and
But the administrators to get all their stuff
Right,
to
yeah,
us.
that might be a little.
And- so we can probably make that work.
Yeah, because you won't have a whole lot to report because you'd be on Christmas break.
Reports will be
so-
thin.
Your reports what?
Will be thin.
Yeah, exactly.
My
So-
only thing is the 13th is closer to when we would be coming back from that remote period. So I don't know. I just think if there's anything like going on and we need to discuss coming back, it might make sense to do that later.
So not to throw a wrench in the works, but I think the budget committee may want something even sooner than that. I mean,
The
do
13th.
you guys want to have
Six.
do you guys want to have some form of meeting, even if it's a Zoom meeting like next week or something, or? I'm just throwing stuff out there. It's totally up to you guys.
I mean, we have negotiations on Tuesday. I have budget on Wednesday. I mean, if we want to do a totally Zoom like work session and to just say the budget, I mean, some other day, but yeah. I mean,
Monday would be if you want to do a Zoom on the budget, we could do a Monday.
Monday the 14th?
Yep.
Wayne suggested Monday the 14th, just like a Zoom just on the budget.
I said that without talking to Ann and Joe, but I know they don't have as many evening activities this time of the year as they usually have in December.
Can you Zoom from home? Oh, there you go.
Internet's a little bit sketchy.
So meeting in person January 6th would be too late also, Sean?
I think so. For the budget committee, I think it would be.
Because it would give them less than a month for a hearing, then just
Yeah.
just in their mind, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, our budget is extensive. Our budget is,
It is.
honestly, our budget's more extensive and more confusing than the town's budget. They need time to sit with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The town's broken up into each department.
yeah.
I mean, and ours kind of is too, but
Yeah.
I find ours to be a lot more intricate than the towns.
It needs a lot more explanation.
Yes,
Yeah,
maybe that's what I was
right,
trying
right.
to, yeah.
And I actually started, when I was making my notes for our work session last week, I kind of started a bullet point of things that changed in notes, and I thought maybe this year, in addition, I could preempt, because a lot of their questions are the same questions we had, and I could preempt it and give them answers to things that I thought they might ask. So, that might help too.
So the only disclaimer I'll throw in there is if the post office has me quarantining, then I can make the meeting. If they don't, the closer we get to Christmas, the more I just can't make meetings. I just need to throw that out there.
Even if it's a later meeting, like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Mondays I've been working until 6, 7 o'clock at
Oh,
night.
that's
So.
right, yeah. Monday's a bad day, yeah.
We could do a 7 on Monday if you wanted, but
Well, don't make it later for me. Have it work best for you
Another
guys.
day.
Right. What about
Well,
Wednesday? Oh, you have, it's budget. next
Wednesday is
Wednesday.
budget,
Yeah,
and then
so
Tuesday's negotiation and Shauna's planning. And so negotiation involves me and Wayne and Tom and Sean and Angie Oreo. So,
so
So the 14th.
how about
Tom.
6:30 on the 14th? Would that work? 6:15, Sean, 6:30 better?
The 15 minutes would help me possibly make it, but I'd hate to promise you I'm going to be there.
So are we doing 6:30?
6:30.
That's okay with everybody, 6:30? 6:30 on Monday.
I was hoping.
So
So
that's exclusively a Zoom meeting, or is
just,
that,
well,
or
be-
will some people be here?
it's up to you guys.
What do you guys want to do?
I can be here.
I can be here.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm trying to reduce
Zooming
this
is-
room to no more than 10 people ever, just because there's cubic feet.
So
of
it
air.
could be the same amount of people that were here for the work session last week, which wasn't that many of us.
So if everybody in this room's okay,
Mhm.
and then Sean, and John, if there's somebody you really want, but these Zoom meetings are working, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm able to be there, it'll be through Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah, and me, so we're talking about us coming in person. Okay, good. I was gonna say, me trying to Zoom from my house in the evening.
I mean, I
Conducive.
So Monday, the 14th at 6:30, hybrid meeting.
Mhm.
That was it? Okay. On the budget, okay.
Yeah.
But we're just gonna be doing the budget, right?
Yes.
Yeah, just the budget.
Yeah, it'll be budget only.
Yeah, and if we come to, if we have all of our ducks in a row, I can tell them that on the 16th, and then that they'll be getting the documents once, we can get them all together for them, so.
And then the 13th, we keep our meeting, and then if something happens with COVID, we can make
Yeah.
another call.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's good.
all right, good, thank you.
I would say I would require a request about 48 hours to turn around documents if there are changes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, so that's Monday, then I'll meet with them Wednesday. I mean, I don't think we should promise getting documents to them necessarily before the beginning of January. You know what I mean? They can get it on like January. I don't think
Well,
it's.
if we can get them to them earlier, I'd like to see. I personally would like to see them get it as soon as they can get it.
So you're saying if we make changes on the 14th, Tom could get, but see, we have to talk about, because last year there was a whole kerfuffle that nobody was printing books and blah, blah, blah. Remember that?
Well, then we need to lay that out, and we just need to make a definite confirmed plan.
Okay,
And if we
decide
do
that
that,
on
then
14th. Okay, so we could possibly get stuff to them by the end of that week.
Yeah, I would think by the 18th would be reasonable.
Yeah. In my mind, right along, I was thinking that Holly was going to maybe want to turn documents over on the 16th, but the 18th is even better.
Yeah, no, that's, I think they should have it before Christmas.
Okay.
Merry Christmas. Yeah,
And then
they're
we
right.
can meet with them on the 6th.
However that works.
But yeah, because I don't think we should meet with them the week of Christmas or New Year's.
No.
So.
Oh, I know. No.
So then on January 6th. Okay. All right. Sounds good.
All right. Anything else on budget?
No, I think we've
We talked that to death.
Yeah.
All right. Staff development. Nothing?
Nope, nothing.
All right. Legislation, NHSBA.
So the NHSBA annual meeting is going to be a virtual meeting held in January. I think it's the 23rd. There was some materials that came through. Did everybody get that?
Yeah. The
Okay.
resolutions and stuff.
Yeah, so
no, I
maybe
didn't
we
like
could get a printout of that as part of the January meeting, and
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 Yes.
yes.
okay, thank you. And
Sorry.
I think I've already said I would attend. So I think I'm in there. But if you could just double check and make sure that I'm, registered, that'd be good.
Jim, did you get an email? Because if you asked me to do it, you should have gotten an email.
I don't know. It would have been earlier in the school year. I'll double check and I'll close the loop with you on that.
Okay.
Can I add something, Jim, to NHSBA?
Yep.
So we had our, excuse me, board of directors meeting last week, and as Jim said, we decided to do it virtual, and it's going to be a pared down meeting. There isn't going to be a presentation or any of that like they usually do in the beginning. It'll just be the business meeting, and the resolutions. Thank you, Jim. I was going to also ask if they be in the packet because at the January meeting, we'll have to just look it over, and it'll give each resolution and then what the NHSBA board decided, and I can speak to any of those if anybody has any questions, because we voted on all those last week. And then we just need to know on each of them what our board feels, so then Jim knows which way to vote. And then what they're going to do is, I guess years and years ago, even before I was on this board and ever paying any attention to it, they would have a meeting. The meeting would be in the fall, and then at one point it transitioned. They thought just temporarily to January, and then it kind of stuck. So they want to just do the business meeting in January, and then come the fall, like September, October-ish. We haven't decided on that yet. Then there'll be another full meeting, and probably not. I don't know if there's going to be resolutions again or not, but so then it'll just be in the fall with people traveling and winter time and all this other stuff. January's not that attractive, so.
January, New Hampshire.
Yeah, so that'll get moved, but yeah, so that's that.
All righty. Let's see. The emergency management. Anything? No, nothing. All right. Wyndham Career Center. Nothing. HASP Advisory Board, we did not meet. Selectmen has been all about budget. Facilities.
So facilities, we talked about, excuse me, the CIP earlier. We also discussed the digital signage that has come up in conversation several times. That's the one that had the donation from last year's class. There's going to be ongoing discussions about that. It's not, again, with everything else, it's not going to be part of any CIP plan for this year. We are looking to maybe bring the town in as a partner on that. So it'll be continued to be discussed at future facility meetings. And then specifically, I had a question, a facilities question posed to me about this building, about the airflow within this building. And so specifically the two school buildings have MERV 11 units. This building has a MERV 10 unit. It is Sean had a lot of like sort of technical stuff about it, but basically he felt it was okay for this building.
There's 4 units.
There's 4 units as part of like that support this building, but it's still a MERV 10 exchange filter.
Oh, I thought it was 11. I thought we went from 8 to 11.
We're talking about this building.
Oh, the SAU? Oh, good.
The SAU, because there was a
Okay.
question about this
I thought you
building.
meant the
And the reason that this building came up was because of non-school board meetings that were being held, budget meetings and stuff. So at any rate, Sean felt that what we have is a MERV 10. He said it was a good unit. It's good for what we've got. As long as we keep the number of people within a room to 10, utilize the additional adjoining rooms to handle any overflow, that seems to be okay. If the budget selectmen are using this building for technology purposes because downtown isn't any good, I guess they could consider the library, but it seems to be okay to be used here as long as we restrict it to 10. And Sean did mention that they do disinfect before and after the.
And I just want to, Sean, say that I had asked that question of Jim, and I was kind of, I know I brought it up to you a couple months ago, just in passing, we kind of threw it around, just because when we would have more people here at the meetings, and sometimes the meetings would go, 3.5 hours, and I just wasn't sure, especially because we're spread out a little more because there's less people, but when other administrators and you're here, we work closer together. So I just wanted to know because we do spend, a chunk of time here together. So thank you for checking that out.
Sean also did say that the microbial filters that go on the individual units have been recently replaced. Matter of fact, just within the last few days.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, are we good with facilities? Community
Yeah,
connections. All right, community connections. I think I briefly had just said that I had posted that thing that Holly had sent me. Kayla, was there anything else you want to add to that?
I don't believe so. I think we're just getting through budget and then we'll talk.
Yep.
Zoom
Talk
room.
more messaging.
Yeah.
All right, behavioral support team.
I believe we're meeting in January.
Yeah.
Was it the 13th that was?
January 13th is what I had written down.
That rings a bell for me as well.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't a meeting on the 19th that I needed to be at.
All righty, and joint loss.
Nope, we're meeting in January, I don't know what day, but 23rd, it's something, I don't know. We all have it on our calendar, but that's a whole different calendar right now.
I know, I have 2 calendars going right now.
Yeah.
All right, so that brings us to citizens' comments.
I have a question that I should have asked earlier.
Did you hear that, Julie? Had a question?
Okay, let's do Julia's question then.
Just real quick. What is the, when would we like to get these? I should have asked it when I was summarizing the 3 communications that I need to get together. What is our goal for a time frame to get those out? As soon as possible, I assume.
Why don't I throw that out to the administrator? Obviously, I think the remote learning after the Christmas break needs to go out ASAP, but why don't I throw that out there to Wayne and the principals? What kind of timeline are you looking for?
As soon as possible. Okay, I get it. Okay.
Passing the buck.
If we're gonna send a message out about SNAP.
Right. So I need to get to you guys. I need to get out tomorrow to be sent out on Friday. Okay. Perfect.
All right, so let's go to citizens' comments. Looks like we have mostly administration here, so I'm just going to throw it out there. Does anyone have anything? You can either message me real quick or you can unmute and ask.
I just had a quick comment.
Okay.
I just want to thank you guys for allowing us to use your buildings recently for our meetings with the budget committee. And then going back as far as election day, we really appreciated that on behalf of the selectmen. Also really appreciate your diligence with the budget. I think you guys are doing a great job. and that really helps our joint effort to give relief to the taxpayers. And then just as a parent, I think you guys are doing great with all of the COVID, restrictions and changes and all of that. And I really appreciate your caution with returning after the holidays. So that's all I had.
Awesome. Thank you, Megan. Does anybody else have anything in the public? Nothing. Anybody? Last call going around? No? All right, so we have one hopefully quick non-public to do. I've set up a separate Zoom meeting for that, so we'll need to kind of sign off and go into that. And that will be with the board and the superintendent. Yeah, so I need a motion to go into non-public.
Make a motion to go into non-public.
Second.
All right, roll call.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so Ian, can you set them up with that second Zoom link?
Yeah, I'm on my way in there.
All right, I'm gonna sign off of this one and then go start that one. So I will see you all in just a quick second.
That's the craving for a grilled cheese sandwich right now. I think it's all the sweet now. I'm like
Now he needs a savory.
That's a really good idea.
I know, tomato soup and grilled cheese sounds so good.
I have bread and pizza.
I don't think I have bread. I'm gonna make a bagel.
Perfect. This is what Karen was talking about. Okay, perfect.
Have
It cannot
grilled
be
cheese
remote
ready
at
when I
will.
arrive.
Okay, awesome. Thank you
I know.
so much.